Hey folks, Toby Mathis here, and today we're going to go over why looking poor could be the best decision you ever make. So hang on tight, because I'm sure there'll be some comments coming from this one. All right, there are absolutely psychological reasons and logical reasons why you don't want to flaunt wealth. Now, I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to give you my 5 top reasons of why looking poor could actually be your best decision. Now, I'm not talking about looking poor in the sense of looking homeless. I'm just saying don't look overtly wealthy, and there are plenty of reasons why. Number 1 is avoiding lawyers and snoops. A number of people who have won the lottery, for example, have said it's the worst thing that ever happened to them. And one of the main reasons is because of everybody coming around digging into all their stuff, the lawyers involved, and the acrimony that it caused. Now, there's another reason, is that if everybody knows you have money, you're literally putting a target on your back for someone who decides they want to help themselves to your wealth. I think it was Mark Cuban that once said one of the worst parts about getting wealthy was all the lawyers they had to deal with, because there's a constant barrage of people trying to take things away from you. So one of the best ways to look poor is to not have your name in that public record. It's something we teach all the time at our tax and asset protection workshops, but it's making it so people can't see what you have via a public record, which means they can't go type up a search and see all your rental properties, all the businesses you own, all of the things that you have going on. You can get your name out of the public record. So looking poor may be as simple as not being overtly wealthy in a public record. You could still have it, but we want to make it to where lawyers and snoops don't come looking for it. Number 2, believe it or not, it saves you money. Now, there's been plenty of studies on the psychological impact of living in certain neighborhoods. And this is it's like some of you guys, this might tweak you the wrong way. If it bothers you, let me know in the comments about why it bothers you. But this is the truth. People that try to keep up with their neighbors are less happy than people that don't. And so if you don't try to keep up with whatever your social economic class is, like let's say that you are starting to make some money and you avoid the temptation of going into a lavish neighborhood, or if you do, you don't try to keep up. Like, hey, I see they have a Rolls. My neighbor's got a Rolls and he's got a Lamborghini. That's a lot of pressure. And even if you buy those items, you're not going to be happy because you're trying to keep up with somebody else. In other words, we're looking outwardly instead of inwardly. That sounds weird, but there's study after study has showed it. So by living a little more modest and not trying to look rich, you'll actually be happier. Studies prove it. Number 3, gold diggers. And I'm not talking about your spouse. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about other people that all of a sudden decide they're going to be in your life because they perceive that you have wealth. And I can use me as an example. Sold a business. It was publicly, there was a press release and everything else. All of a sudden, every financial planner, it seemed, on the planet decided that they were my best friend and really had some good ideas about what I could do with my money. You want to avoid that at all, if at all possible, by keeping a low profile. Now, some things, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing I could do. Sold a company, right? But what I can do is make sure that I have a low profile in the public records so that I'm not attracting people who are going to start trying to ask and help themselves to my money. It always surprises me that when I see somebody who says I'm an angel investor and they're putting their name out there, and I talk to them and they have deal fatigue. They're always getting hit up. And I'm like, that's because you said you're an angel investor and put yourself out there in a public record. You basically waved a flag saying, I've got money and I'm willing to share it with anybody who has a great idea. Of course you're going to get pitched. You want to put up some sort of moat around yourself with either other professionals or by getting your name out of that public record so that you don't get hit with those types of things. Number 4, and this is a weird one, but some people are really sensitive to it. You want to avoid stereotypes. And this happens. heard this over and over again. Somebody who makes a lot of money and they say, I didn't change, all my friends changed. And they started treating me differently. And a lot of times there's not anything you can do about it. You can be aware of it and you could say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to flaunt it in front of people. I'm not going to sit there and cause them to feel uncomfortable because I have something they may not have. Now, some of you guys who are wealthy, you already know what I'm talking about. If you had friends from prior to you making it big or whatever, and you're around them, you have to be a little bit sensitive to the idea that what you're able to do, hey, you know, for example, you go out to dinner, you may see a bottle of wine, $400 bottle of wine, and think nothing of it. But somebody else, it may be causing them to feel a little bit less than or some stress. And also, there are people that will immediately look at you and say, oh, you're one of those people. And so I just say, dress down a little bit, maybe be sensitive to it, just be aware that if you are flaunting your wealth, there are people who will judge you as a result. And depending on your social circles, that may not be a good thing, especially for you and your family. You may want to tone it down just a little bit. And again, I see people, they get the money, the first thing they want to do is go out and get the really nice car, get the big house, get the big boat. They want to start, you know, hey, let's go on a ton of vacations and everything, and you're sharing it with everybody. But there might be people that are looking at you a little differently as a result. Just be aware of it. Now, number 5, this is one of my favorites. Not looking rich because you have enough. You're satisfied. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut was talking about one of his friends who was a publisher, and they were in the Hamptons, they were around all these billionaires. And he says, doesn't it bother you that one of these billionaires makes more in a day than you ever received publishing? In this particular case, was a very successful novel. And he said, no, because I have something they'll never have. And he said, what's that? And he goes, enough. And we all know people that are still out there chasing. I call them rich, miserable bastards. They've never figured out the other half of the equation, which is the personal satisfaction. And there is something to be said for, hey, I am deliberately driving the pickup truck and wearing my jeans, right? I'm satisfied with the way my life is. I like my family. I like the people I work with. And yes, I could do the private jet. Yes, I could do the Rolls Royce. Yes, I could do some more highfalutin stuff, and I could go out and pop bottles and go to the club and spend $10,000 a night and do all that crazy stuff, right? But it wouldn't make you happy. And just realizing, hey, that doesn't bring me any happiness is part of the equation that causes the satisfaction. It's something that I've seen over and over again because I work with investors, and I can tell you all 5 of these are very legitimate and from my personal experience. Right? I see these folks that build up wealth, and you see somebody who's building it over time, and then they reach it to where they're independent, they leave their job, they don't need to work anymore, and sometimes they start going over to the other side, and they get very conscious of it. And I can tell you, each one of these, I've had stories that people have told me that they shared with me about how other people perceive them, caused them a certain amount of pain because they said, that's not me. But I'm like, well, you know, you can't control what other people think, but you can control what you do and then again how you react with it. And you could be a little sensitive to it because a lot of times it's the last thing we're thinking about is, hey, got a bunch of money, I'm going to start to spend it. I get it. That's usually the tendency of somebody who especially you have a big event. You know, if you win the lottery, unfortunately, statistically, you're not going to keep much of that money. But if you build your wealth, you probably will. It's the next generation that we have to worry about, right? And so you want to teach them how to live appropriately so that they don't go out and blow it up. And usually, when somebody makes the mistake, it's because they get the big windfall, and then they start chasing, and they think, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And if you just tap the brakes, slow the roll on those things, you'll be much better off. And so that's your why maybe not looking wealthy, but while looking poor could be one of the best decisions you ever make is when you consciously say, I'm not going to play that game, I'm not going to enter that race, I'm just going to be me and be happy and be comfortable and do the things that bring me and my family joy, you're going to be much better off. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Share this with anybody you think needs to be shared with. There are some folks out there you went, ah! And then if you can, like and subscribe.